The other day, I closed my NordVPN tab after a long night on the internet. As my cursor tapped the X at the corner, I realized that I was sacrificing protection for a little more speed. And this got me thinking about the social contract. If you've been following the news lately, you know that there has been questions about authority. Now, I'm no anarchist, but looking at incidents like George Floyd, you wonder, what exactly gives authority the right to enforce the law on us? Well, this builds on the idea of the social contract. If people are left on their own without government in a state of nature, life will be, quote, nasty, brutish, and short, end quote, or so said Hobbes. Hence, as the story goes, human beings sacrifice some of their independent freedoms to the state in exchange for order and protection of their rights. Just like how I gave up some of my information to NordVPN and sacrificed some speed for protection. Hobbes called this a Leviathan, named after a Hebrew sea creature subdued by Yahweh, the god in Judaism. Now, this viewpoint makes the assumption that humans are intrinsically selfish and evil, and that humans can't coexist together without authority. In some ways, this does seem to be true. Whenever there is a breakdown of authority in riots, we see a breakdown of order, violence, and looting. Okay, so humans must be naturally evil then, right? Well, on the other hand, people like Mencius might disagree. Before we had the Enlightenment philosophers of 17th century Europe, we had Mencius. Mencius believed that human nature was good, and when put in the right environment, it could flourish into goodness. Simply put, evil humans were not the result of human nature, but rather an injury or misdirection to human nature. Think of it like seeds. Every single seed has the nature to grow into a plant, but not everyone does. Given the right soil, water, and sunlight, however, the plant can flourish. Should the seed be damaged before it can sprout, however, it would grow sideways and struggle to flower. Just like that of a human being who had misdirection and damage to its human nature. Philosophers of 17th century Europe agreed with Mencius that human nature was innately good, and they supported this idea with this idea of a noble savage. The noble savage was the person uncorrupted by civilization, a person who was free to surrender to their nature and pursue goodness. Looking at Native American communities that became plagued with violence and alcoholism after the introduction of Western imports such as guns and alcohol, this does seem to be true. If you ever look at monks who renounce their claims to the material world and meditate, you might see that these people are some of the most compassionate people you might meet. In many ways, the material wants for money and status in a society causes some of us to cheat, lie, and push others down. Without these material wants found in a society, perhaps humans would indeed be good. Personally, having been a lifelong backpacker, I've seen people change over the course of days after being disconnected from Wi-Fi and the material world. I got to say, this idea does have something going for it. Wait, but what if we were neither good or bad? What if we were just like a white piece of paper? Blank. Regardless of whether or not we are aware of it, our society is powered by this view of human nature as a blank state. Parenting articles tell us to talk to our children to make them more friendly and sociable. The greatest social engineering programs of the 20th century, the totalitarian communist regimes of the Soviet Union and Maoist China, operated on this belief. This belief that our environment shaped our nature, and that we could work for the sake of working, instead of for self-interest. This belief that with communist ideology, we could treat each other as equal comrades, and that we would only take what we need and provide what we could. All of this, as we know, was a colossal failure. Depending on your views, you might argue that it was the fault of those operating the communist regimes that caused the failure of communism. To be completely honest, I can't really disagree with you, but maybe there's something more to this. Maybe there actually is something important. Maybe there is something inherent in human nature. This idea, however, can be quite scary. Next week, we will be looking at the idea of inherent human nature and why it can be a scary thought. Personally, I find this really interesting, and I hope you do too. Last week's video is on the left. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe for free Halloween candy, and I'll see you next time.